The encounter on Proxima 7. The rust-colored sky of Proxima 7 stretched endlessly above Lena Kovacs as she trudged across the barren landscape, her boots crunching against crystalline soil that sparkled despite the dim light of the distant sun. The expedition had gone south 3 days ago when their rover broke down, leaving her separated from the main research team with dwindling oxygen and a malfunctioning navigation system. "Come on, you worthless piece of junk," she muttered, smacking the side of her wrist-mounted locator. The device flickered briefly, displaying a jumble of incomprehensible coordinates before dying completely. Lena sighed, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. Around her, the alien plains extended in all directions, punctuated only by towering rock formations that resembled the skeletal remains of ancient creatures. She wasn't supposed to be here. None of them were. Proxima 7 had been classified as uninhabitable after the initial survey team disappeared 5 years ago. But rumors of exotic minerals and strange energy readings had brought Centauri Mining Corporation back, with Lena as their top xenogeologist. Now she was beginning to understand why the first team had vanished. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the desolate terrain. Lena checked her oxygen levels, 43 minutes remaining. Not enough to make it back to base camp, even if she knew which direction to go. She would need to find shelter, conserve her remaining air, and hope the emergency beacon was still functioning. A glint of something metallic caught her eye in the distance. Squinting against the dying light, she could make out the angular silhouette of what appeared to be a structure, not a natural formation, but something built with purpose and design. Hope fluttered in her chest as she altered her course. If she was lucky, it might be an old research outpost, perhaps even one with emergency oxygen supplies. As she drew closer, the structure revealed itself to be an abandoned station, partly buried under years of dust storms and neglect. The Centauri logo was barely visible on a tilting sign, weathered almost beyond recognition. Station Echo 9, one of the original research facilities established during the first wave of exploration. "Thank you, Universe," Lena whispered, hurrying toward the sealed airlock. Her training kicked in as she examined the manual override, relieved to find it still operational. With a few practiced movements, she bypassed the security protocols and the door slid open with a reluctant groan. Once inside, she waited for the airlock to cycle, her heart pounding as the oxygen gauge on her suit dipped below the 40-minute mark. When the inner door finally opened, she stumbled into the darkened facility and quickly removed her helmet, taking a cautious breath. The air was stale but breathable. Someone had kept the life support systems running. "Hello?" she called out, her voice echoing through the abandoned corridors. "Is anyone here?" Centauri Mining Expedition member in need of assistance. Only silence answered her. Lena activated her suit's shoulder light and began to explore the station. Most of the rooms were in disarray, chairs overturned, equipment scattered, as if everyone had left in a hurry. But there was no sign of violence, no indication of what might have happened to the previous occupants. In what appeared to be the main research lab, Lena found terminals still humming with power. She brushed away layers of dust from one of the screens and was surprised when it illuminated at her touch. Data scrolled across the display, research notes, geological surveys, and something else, something odd. The final entries spoke of anomalous readings, of strange phenomena that defied explanation, and of dreams that felt more real than waking life. The last entry, dated just days before all communication from the station had ceased, read simply, "They were here all along. Watching us. Waiting for the right one to return." A chill ran down Lena's spine that had nothing to do with the station's temperature. She was about to search for the communications array when a soft noise behind her made her freeze. Footsteps, light and deliberate, approaching from the darkened hallway. Lena spun around, her hand instinctively reaching for the laser cutter at her belt. "Who's there?" she demanded, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. A figure emerged from the shadows, illuminated by the glow of the terminal. Not human, at least not entirely. Tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light, like mother of pearl under moonlight. Her features were delicate, elegant, with eyes large and luminous, reflecting the artificial light like twin moons. Long, sweeping ears tapered to graceful points, framing a face that somehow managed to be both alien and hauntingly familiar. But it was her hair that truly marked her as other, flowing like liquid silver, moving subtly even in the still air of the station, as if responding to currents Lena couldn't feel. The being regarded Lena with an expression that seemed to contain both joy and profound sadness. And then, impossibly, she spoke. "Lena," she said, her voice melodic and fluid, like water over stones. "You've finally returned." Lena's grip tightened on her cutter. "How do you know my name?" she demanded. "Who are you?" The being tilted her head, silver hair shifting like mercury. "You truly don't remember." It wasn't a question but a realization, accompanied by a soft, resigned sigh. "I am Teria. We once shared dreams across the void between worlds." "That's impossible," Lena said, taking a step back. "I've never been to Proxima 7 before. This is my first off-world assignment." A smile touched Teria's lips, gentle and knowing. "Is it? Look deeper, Lena Kovacs. Look into the spaces between your memories, into the dreams that feel too real, the déjà vu that haunts your waking hours." Something stirred in the back of Lena's mind, a wisp of memory, fragmented and indistinct. A conversation under strange stars. Laughter shared across impossible distance. Promises made. She shook her head, dispelling the thoughts. "You're trying to confuse me." "Whatever you want, whatever you're planning." "I want nothing but what was promised," Teria interrupted, her voice soft but firm. "You came here once before, not in this form perhaps, but your essence was the same. You made a vow, Lena, a vow that transcended time and space." "That's ridiculous," Lena scoffed, but her conviction wavered. There was something about Teria that resonated with her, like a forgotten melody suddenly recalled. "I'm a scientist, not some mystical traveler between worlds." Teria approached slowly, her movements fluid and graceful. "Science and mystery are not as separate as your people believe. What you call coincidence, we recognize as pattern. What you dismiss as intuition, we honor as memory." She extended her hand, palm up, revealing an intricate spiral tattoo that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. "Touch it, and remember." Every logical part of Lena's mind screamed at her to refuse, to maintain distance, to find the communications array and call for emergency extraction. Yet something deeper, something beyond reason, drew her forward. Her hand moved almost of its own accord, hovering above Teria's palm. "What will I see?" she whispered, suddenly afraid. "Truth," Teria replied simply. "Your truth. Our truth." Their fingers met, and the world dissolved around them. Lena gasped as images flooded her consciousness, not like memories viewed from a distance, but experiences relived in full sensory detail. She saw herself, yet not herself, standing beneath twin suns on a world of crystalline forests and singing skies. She felt the cool touch of alien rain against skin that was both hers and not hers. She heard promises exchanged in a language she didn't know yet somehow understood perfectly. And through it all, Teria. Companion. Guide. Friend. Something more. When Lena's awareness returned to the dusty confines of Station Echo 9, she found herself on her knees, tears streaming down her face. The sense of loss was overwhelming, a grief for something she hadn't known was missing until this moment. "How," she managed, her voice breaking. "How could I forget all of this?" Teria knelt before her, silver hair pooling on the floor like moonlight. "The Watchers took your memories when they discovered our bond. They feared what we might become together, what we might change." "The Watchers?" Lena repeated, struggling to process everything. "Who are they?" "Guardians of cosmic order, or so they claim," Teria explained, helping Lena to her feet. "They monitor the boundaries between realities, preserving what they consider the natural progression of events. Our connection, a human soul and a luminar spirit, was deemed a disruption to their grand design. Lena ran a shaking hand through her short, dark hair. This is a lot. But why now? Why am I here? Because part of you remembered, Taria said, her luminous eyes searching Lena's face. Deep beneath the layers of forgetting they imposed, something in you recognized this world, sensed our unfinished bond. It drew you back, despite all their efforts. A distant rumbling interrupted them, the station trembling slightly beneath their feet. Dust drifted down from the ceiling, and the lights flickered. They know you've returned, Taria said urgently. They will try to separate us again, to erase what you've begun to remember. Who? Lena asked, alarmed. The Watchers. Taria nodded grimly. We must reach the sanctuary, the place where we made our original vow. There, we might be able to restore what was taken, to complete what we began. Another tremor shook the station, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed along the corridor as ancient systems detected structural instability. How far is this sanctuary? Lena asked, her practical nature asserting itself even amid the impossible situation. Beyond the whispering canyons, beneath the silent temple, Taria replied. A day's journey, perhaps less if we move quickly. Lena hesitated, torn between the rational part of her that still doubted, still questioned, and the growing certainty that there was truth in what Taria claimed. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. We have little choice, Taria said softly. Stay, and the Watchers will find you. They will take these memories again, return you to your ship with a convenient explanation for your lost time. You will continue your life never knowing what was stolen from you. Another memory surfaced, standing at the edge of a glittering lake, making a solemn promise under alien stars, no matter how many lives it takes, I will find my way back to you. Lena made her decision. Let's go, she said firmly. To the sanctuary. As they hurried toward the station's exit, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a story already written, resuming a journey paused but never truly abandoned. A journey that had begun long before she was Lena Kovacs, xenogeologist and reluctant explorer of distant worlds. Behind them, the terminals in the research lab displayed a final message before going dark, convergence imminent. Interference protocols activated. The hunt had begun. Echoes of a forgotten bond. Proxima VII's landscape transformed as Lena and Taria ventured away from the abandoned research station. The barren plains gave way to terrain that seemed increasingly impossible, crystalline formations that chimed softly in the wind, patches of vegetation that glowed with bioluminescence, and strange hovering stones that defied gravity. I don't remember any of this from the survey reports, Lena murmured, ducking beneath an arch of pulsating crystal. Her suit's environmental sensors were going haywire, registering readings that fluctuated wildly with each step. Taria moved fluidly beside her, silver hair rippling like liquid mercury. The Watchers conceal much of this world from your kind. What you see in your surveys is merely what they permit you to see. Lena frowned, scientific curiosity warring with lingering skepticism. That's not possible. We have satellites, spectrographic analysis, ground-penetrating radar. All measuring what exists within your perception of reality, Taria replied gently. The Watchers operate beyond those limitations. They curate what different species can observe, maintaining barriers between worlds they believe should remain separate. A distant rumbling interrupted them, like thunder but somehow wrong, too rhythmic, too deliberate. Lena glanced up at the rust-colored sky, now streaked with peculiar iridescent patterns that seemed to be forming complex geometric shapes. They're searching for us, Taria said, quickening her pace. We must reach the whispering canyons before nightfall. As they traveled, fragments of memory continued to surface in Lena's mind, disjointed scenes that felt simultaneously foreign and intimately familiar. She saw herself standing beneath cascading light falls, felt the touch of Taria's fingers intertwining with her own, heard promises exchanged in languages she had never learned yet somehow understood. These memories, Lena began, her voice uncertain. Were they from my previous life? Was I reincarnated somehow? Terria's expression softened. Your people have such linear concepts of existence. It's not so much that you lived before, but that a part of your essence, what you might call your soul, has traversed multiple forms across different planes of reality. That's not exactly clarifying things, Lena said dryly. A smile flickered across Terria's face. The you that stands before me now, Lena Kovacs, is both new and ancient. Your physical form, your specific memories of Earth and your life there, those are unique to this iteration. But the core of who you are has touched this world before, has known me before. They crested a ridge, and Lena stopped short, breath catching in her throat. Before them stretched a vast network of canyons, their walls composed of translucent crystal that seemed to capture and refract the fading sunlight in hypnotic patterns. But more astonishing than the sight was the sound, a constant, ever-changing symphony that emanated from the canyon walls themselves, notes rising and falling in complex harmonies. The whispering canyons, Teria announced, a note of reverence in her musical voice. The Luminari consider this a sacred place, where the fabric between worlds grows thin. Lena stood transfixed, listening to the alien music. Gradually, she realized that there was something hauntingly familiar about certain sequences in the melody, as if she had heard them in dreams long forgotten. I know this song, she whispered, the admission surprising even herself. Teria nodded. You helped compose it, in another time. The canyons remember. As they descended into the maze of crystalline passages, the music surrounded them, sometimes playful and bright, sometimes melancholy and yearning. Lena felt something shifting inside her mind with each step, as if doors long sealed were slowly opening. When we met, she asked, carefully picking her way across a narrow bridge of glittering stone, how did it happen? How did a human and a Luminari connect? You were not human then, not as you are now, Teria explained, her steps graceful and sure. You were an explorer, but of consciousness rather than space. Your people had developed technology to project awareness across dimensional boundaries. You called yourself a dream walker. The term resonated within Lena, triggering another cascade of memories, sitting in a chamber filled with humming technology, her body connected to machines that looked both advanced and ancient, her mind slipping free to soar between stars and through veils of reality. The project was called Morpheus, she said suddenly, the words emerging unbidden. We were mapping the boundaries of consciousness itself. Teria gave her a pleased look. Yes. While your physical form remained on Earth, your consciousness encountered mine here, on Proxima 7. A meeting that should have been impossible, according to the Watcher's rigid laws. And we, what? Fell in love? Lena asked, feeling oddly self-conscious. We recognized each other, Teria corrected gently. As if our souls had been searching across countless lifetimes. The connection was immediate, profound, and, to the Watchers, deeply threatening. The canyon walls around them suddenly dimmed, the music faltering before shifting to a minor key. Above them, the sky darkened unnaturally, stars blinking out one by one as if being systematically erased. They found us, Teria said urgently. Quickly, this way. She led Lena through an increasingly complex network of passages, the crystal walls now pulsing with warning lights that seemed to emerge from within the stone itself. The music of the canyon had transformed into something tense and discordant, a cacophony of alarm. What happens if they catch us? Lena panted, struggling to keep pace. They will separate us again, Teria replied grimly. Return you to your expedition with no memory of me or our shared past. And they will ensure we never find each other again. But why? What's so threatening about us being together? Teria paused at a junction where 7 different passages converged. She closed her luminous eyes briefly, then chose a path that sloped steeply downward. The Watchers believe in cosmic equilibrium above all else, she explained as they hurried along. Each species confined to its designated reality, each consciousness limited to its assigned perceptions. Our bond, a human soul and a luminary spirit united, represents a fundamental disruption of those boundaries. That sounds unnecessarily rigid, Lena observed. Indeed. But they have maintained these divisions for eons, convinced that the alternative would be chaos. What they fail to understand is that connections like ours don't threaten the multiverse, they enrich it. The passage opened suddenly into a vast underground cavern that took Lena's breath away. Immense crystal formations rose from floor to ceiling like the pipes of some colossal alien organ, each one pulsing with internal light in perfect rhythm. In the center stood a structure that defied easy description, part temple, part living organism, its architecture flowing and changing subtly even as they approached. The silent temple, Teria said softly. Though perhaps silent is a misnomer in your language. It does not speak in sound but in vibrations that touch the soul directly. As they drew closer, Lena felt it, a gentle pressure against her consciousness, welcoming and familiar. The air around the temple shimmered with particles of light that danced like fireflies, forming patterns that seemed almost like writing. I've been here before, Lena realized, a profound sense of homecoming washing over her. Many times, Teria confirmed. This is where we made our vow, where we promised to find each other again, no matter how many lives it took. The ground beneath them suddenly trembled, and the crystal formations around the cavern began to sing in alarm, a high, keening sound that made Lena wince and cover her ears. They've breached the canyons, Teria said, her expression tightening. We have little time. They hurried toward the temple entrance, a doorway that appeared to be composed of liquid light suspended in midair. As they approached, it rippled in recognition, patterns flowing across its surface like lines of code executing some ancient program. What exactly are we hoping to accomplish here? Lena asked, eyeing the doorway with a mixture of fascination and apprehension. The sanctuary contains an artifact called the Memory Nexus, Teria explained quickly. It can restore what the Watchers took from you, all your past experiences, the full breadth of our connection. Once restored, they cannot so easily separate us again. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook the cavern. Dust and small crystal shards rained down from above. And if it works? Lena pressed. What then? Teria's eyes met hers, luminous and intense. Then we have a choice. Continue as we are, or challenge the Watcher's authority directly, perhaps even change how realities interact across the multiverse. No pressure, then, Lena muttered, glancing back at the cavern entrance where shadows were beginning to gather unnaturally, moving against the flow of light. Teria took her hand, the touch sending a cascade of warmth through Lena's body. I would never force you into this path. If after your memories return, you choose to walk away, I will respect that decision. Lena studied their clasped hands, her own tan and calloused from years of fieldwork, Teria's slender and iridescent, almost translucent in the temple's light. Despite the strangeness of everything, despite the rational part of her mind that still questioned, this felt right. It felt like coming home after a journey so long she had forgotten she was even traveling. Let's do this, she decided, squeezing Teria's hand. Before our friends out there crash the party. They stepped through the doorway together, the liquid light parting around them like a curtain. Inside, the temple opened into a space that seemed both intimate and infinite, a paradox of perception that made Lena's head spin momentarily. The walls, floor, and ceiling were indistinguishable, all flowing together in patterns of light and shadow that created the illusion of standing within a living organism. At the center floated a crystalline structure that resembled a lotus flower, each petal inscribed with symbols that shifted and changed as she watched. This was the memory nexus, she realized, recognizing it from fragments of her returning memories. Now what? She asked, her voice hushed in the sacred space. Before Teria could answer, the temple shuddered violently. The entrance through which they had come distorted, the liquid light stretching and warping as something pushed against it from the other side. They're here, Teria said grimly. We must hurry. She guided Lena to the nexus, positioning her directly beneath the floating crystal lotus. Close your eyes, she instructed. Open your mind to what was lost. Lena hesitated only briefly before complying. At first, there was nothing, just darkness and the sound of her own heartbeat, rapid with anticipation and fear. Then, slowly, she became aware of a presence, vast and ancient, brushing against her consciousness like fingers against piano keys. "Welcome back, traveler," a voice that wasn't a voice spoke directly into her mind. "What was fragmented shall be whole again." The temple entrance burst open in an explosion of light and sound. Figures poured through, not physical beings but constructs of pure energy, their forms constantly shifting yet somehow conveying an impression of cold authority. The Watchers had arrived. "Stop," one commanded, its voice reverberating through the temple with multidimensional force. "This convergence violates cosmic law." Teria stood protectively before Lena, her silver hair rising around her like a living shield. "Your laws are not absolute," she declared. "You have no right to sever connections formed freely across realities." The lead Watcher advanced, its form coalescing into something vaguely humanoid though composed entirely of swirling light and shadow. "The barriers between worlds exist for a reason, Luminari. Your selfish desire threatens balance maintained for eons." Lena, still connected to the memory nexus, felt knowledge flooding back, lifetimes of experience compressing into moments of pure insight. She saw the truth of their shared past, the depth of their connection across multiple existences. But she also glimpsed something the Watchers themselves either didn't know or deliberately concealed: the barriers they so zealously maintained were not natural at all, but constructs they had engineered long ago out of fear of the unknown. She opened her eyes, new understanding burning bright within her. "You're wrong," she said, her voice steady despite the awesome power gathered before her. "The connections between worlds, between souls, they're the natural state of the multiverse. Your barriers are the artificial construct." The Watcher flickered, its luminous form betraying surprise. "You cannot comprehend the consequences of what you propose." "Perhaps not entirely," Lena admitted, feeling Teria move to stand beside her. "But I understand enough to know that fear is a poor foundation for cosmic law." The memory nexus above them began to rotate faster, responding to Lena's awakening consciousness. Each crystal petal now blazed with light, projecting images from her recovered memories across the walls of the temple, moments of connection, discovery, and love shared across multiple lifetimes and realities. "What you fear isn't chaos," Teria added, her hand finding Lena's. "It's change. Evolution. The natural progression of consciousness itself." The lead Watcher's form expanded, filling the temple with pulsating energy. "You will not disrupt the order we have maintained. We will separate you again, erase these memories more thoroughly, ensure you never find each other across the vastness of time and space." Lena felt power building within the temple, the Watchers gathering their considerable forces. But something was happening within her as well. The fully restored memories were not just passive records but living energy, resonating with the temple around them and with Teria beside her. "You separated us once," Lena said, an unfamiliar confidence flowing through her. "You won't do it again." She raised her free hand toward the memory nexus, acting on instinct rather than conscious knowledge. Teria mirrored her movement, and where their energies met, something new ignited, a spiral of light that expanded outward, encompassing them both in a protective cocoon. The lead Watcher launched a barrage of energy toward them, but the attacks dissipated harmlessly against their shared shield. The other Watchers joined in, their combined power making the very foundations of the temple tremble, yet the shield held, growing stronger with each assault. "This isn't just about us anymore," Lena called out, her voice strengthened by newfound clarity. "Your system of separation is breaking down. Souls are finding their connections despite your barriers." The Watchers' attacks intensified, the temple groaning under the onslaught. Yet within their protected sphere, Lena and Teria stood untouched, their combined energy creating something the Watchers had never encountered, a bridge between realities that couldn't be severed by external force. "We don't want to destroy what you've built," Teria said, her voice resonating with ancient wisdom. "Only to transform it into something better, something that allows for connection rather than enforced isolation." The memory nexus above them began to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats, sending waves of energy outward through the temple and beyond, ripples in the fabric of reality itself. Lena could feel the change beginning, barriers thinning, not collapsing chaotically but transforming into permeable membranes that allowed connection while maintaining necessary structure. "This is what we promised each other," Teria said softly, turning to meet Lena's gaze. "Not just to find each other again, but to help heal the artificial divisions in the cosmos." The lead watcher's form wavered, its light dimming as it sensed the futility of its attacks. "You cannot understand what you're unleashing," it insisted, but with less conviction. "Perhaps not entirely," Lena acknowledged. "But sometimes progress requires a leap of faith. Your way has dominated for eons, it's time for something new to emerge." With a final surge of energy, the memory nexus released a pulse that rippled outward beyond the temple, beyond Proxima 7, traveling across dimensions and realities. The Watchers, realizing they could not stop what had begun, withdrew their attack, their forms fading reluctantly from the temple. As the echoes of the confrontation faded, Lena turned to Teria, seeing her now with complete clarity, not just the luminary who had found her in the abandoned research station, but the companion of countless shared journeys across the vastness of existence. "So," Lena said, a smile touching her lips. "What happens now?" Teria's luminous eyes sparkled with possibility. Now we begin again, but with full awareness of all that came before. And perhaps," she added, gesturing to the still pulsing nexus, "we help others find their own forgotten connections." Outside the temple, the silent temple's cavern had transformed, crystals singing with new harmonies as the rigid boundaries established by the Watchers began their slow metamorphosis. Above ground, researchers from Lena's expedition would soon discover landscapes previously hidden, species that existed just beyond human perception, and evidence of ancient civilizations that challenged everything they thought they knew about Proxima 7.